To start off the video, let me quickly acknowledge that I do own a Volkswagen product. I own the Volkswagen Atlas. If you've seen my reviews on the Atlas or pretty much any three-row SUV, I talk about the Atlas a lot. It's a great family vehicle at a great price. I really like it. But when I bought that, I never thought that I was gonna be a Volkswagen owner. Before driving the Atlas and buying it, one of my favorite Volkswagen vehicles that they sold was the Passat CC, or just the CC. And I reviewed that thing back in 2012, and the CC was discontinued in 2017, which was a bit sad to me because I liked the vehicle so much. Well, what we've been driving this week is the successor to that CC. This is the Arteon, and this is the 2021 model. This is the halo car for the brand, and is updated with a new front end, more interior refinements and advanced connectivity, and new driver assist options. And while this one has a lot of new stuff over the previous year model, this is the first Arteon that I've driven. The Arteon was at one of our driving events earlier this year for the Texas Auto Riders Association, the Auto Roundup. I didn't make that event, but this thing was named Mid-Size Car of Texas, and I'm super excited to jump into everything. So let's do that right now. Let's jump into the review. And before we jump into this car specifically, let's talk about the different trims available for the Arteon. You have the SE, which is actually what we're driving here. This is the base model. Then you have the SEL R-Line and the SEL Premium R-Line. The Premium R-Line is the only option that you can get the 4Motion all-wheel drive. This one and the SEL R-Line are both front-wheel drive. So there are definitely things available on this car that you're not going to see in this review because this is the base model. So let's start off by diving into the exterior and the exterior design here. Then we'll take a look at the trunk. We'll look under the hood. We'll jump inside, take a look at the interior and the tech. Then we'll take it for a drive, see how it is out on the road. And then we'll wrap up the review talking about some of the competition, the price, and my final thoughts. Let's continue. And with the exterior, let's start off by talking about that color. This is Urano gray, so it's a darker gray. I think it looks really good on this vehicle. It helps accentuate those lines for sure, and I do think this has beautiful styling with great lines, wide hips that I think look really good from the exterior, but also look good while you're sitting in the driver's seat and looking through those side mirrors. You can see those wide hips sticking out. We do have the standard Volkswagen grille from the lineup with a 2-bar grille on the top, a 3-bar grille on the lower end. Again, a nice big opening there with the hood line squishing down to give this really a squished and sporty appearance. You have LED headlights with LED daytime running lights. You also have an available adaptive front lighting system, and the headlights are really nice, but if you get even closer at looking at them, there is a lot of detail in there, which I really appreciate. On the upper trims, you can get an LED light bar integrated into the grille. It goes all the way from the headlights through the grille to the other headlight. It's pretty cool, but I actually like the split look of this here. Again, that hood is nice and sculpted. You've got those 3 different lines coming in and pushing down on the nose of the vehicle, giving it that sporty look. Moving around to the side, this vehicle has 18-inch alloy wheels, and I don't think they're the best wheels out there. They look decent for this base vehicle, but the R lines definitely have better looking wheels. You can get 19 or 20-inch wheels on those upper trims. A nice set of aftermarket wheels here would also look really good. And there's definitely a lot of styling cues here on the side of the vehicle. You get this nice chrome strip here in the front fender. The side mirrors are body colored. You have the integrated turn signal lights. They are heated side mirrors, and they are folding side mirrors, so you can push them up and fold them in, but they're not power folding. I would love to have power folding side mirrors here, especially power folding on lock. It's not a super wide vehicle, so you don't really have to worry about people hitting the side, but it's always a nice to have and an extra luxury feature to have those power folding side mirrors. There's no badges indicating anything on the side. You do have that chrome strip, and you have the chrome strip at the skirt level, but there's no badge indicating the engine under the hood or the trim level that you're driving. So let's move around to the rear. And here in the rear, again, you have the LED tail lights that look really nice. You have that Arteon badge in the middle of the trunk lid, and no other badging indicating the trim level, the engine, anything like that. You do have dual exhaust, and these have this chrome surround, making them look more sporty than they actually are. But it is an actual dual exhaust system, so that's nice. You also get a nice sculpted deck lid that forms a little bit of a spoiler there. And that's not actually a trunk. This is actually classified as a 5-door vehicle. It is a hatch. So let's check it out. So again, the body style is a sporty looking design, has that very coupe-like design, and that's a lot thanks to this hatch back here. To open the hatch, you can just push in on the Volkswagen emblem and pull it up. On the upper trims, it does have the power lift hatch, and it does have the hands-free where you can just put your foot under the bumper to lift it. This model does not have that, but once you have it open, you do have a massive amount of cargo area. 27.2 cubic feet of cargo volume. That's not just big for a sedan, that would be big for a family SUV. So we definitely had no problems filling this with groceries, with luggage stuff that we took, with all my camera gear. It is just a massive volume, and that's definitely something I could get behind. You have this shelf here to cover everything, or you can take it off if you need the extra vertical space, but definitely a fan of the hatch versus just a normal trunk in this vehicle. With that, let's close up the hatch and go check out the engine under the hood. So there is only one engine option no matter the trim level that you get, and that is this one, the 2-liter 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. And that pushes 268 horsepower, 258 foot-pounds of torque, and is matched up to an 8-speed automatic transmission with Tiptronic. And again, this is the front-wheel drive only version. Now, the Passat CC that I drove back in 2012 had a V6 under the hood, and that contributed greatly to the reason that I loved it. It was a really nice feeling vehicle, had a lot of power. This with the 4-cylinder turbocharged engine is the way that the industry is going. Obviously, 268 horsepower would have sounded really great back in 2012. But in 2021, with a 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, that's probably about bare minimum that you would want to have. We'll talk more about how that power actually feels when we jump behind the wheel and take this thing for a drive, which we'll do here pretty quickly. But before we do that, let's jump in the back seats first, talk a little bit about the rear space here, and then we'll jump in the front, talk about the tech and the rest of the interior, and then we'll take it for a drive. All right, and the first thing you might notice here in the rear seats is that there's plenty of room, plenty of space. I have a lot of leg room, foot room underneath the seat, plenty of knee room. I'm behind the passenger seat. It's a little bit more forward than the driver's seat, which is my driver position, but I would be able to fit behind either one of the seats just fine. Headroom with this Sportback is a little bit cramped for me. I'm 6'1", so I'm a bigger guy, but I can fit back here comfortably. It's a little bit cramped. The roofline kind of comes in like this, so I might have to stick my head that way. But that's for the rear seats, obviously, not for the front seats. You do get a pull-down armrest here with some cup holders. You have a pass-through right here that goes into the trunk. You have your own AC vents back here. The one thing the kids did complain about with this vehicle was that these AC vents are pretty small and it didn't blow all that hard back here. And there's no individual settings for the rear seats, so you can't make it blow harder than you can in the front. I think that's available on the upper trims because it does say it has tri-zone climate control, but this vehicle looks like it just has the dual zone. You also get an accessory plug back here if the kids need to charge phones or devices. It's not a USB though, so you got to have an adapter. But all in all, it's a decent place to be. If you got to carry kids around, we had no issues. If you need to carry a couple of adults around, it will be just fine. If you're going 3 wide, again, with the kids, it's okay. You do get a big hump here in the middle. No matter if you get the front wheel drive or all wheel drive, this is always persistent. So you have to take that into consideration. But it's not a completely flat floor all the way across. But with that, let's jump into the front seats and take a closer look at the rest of the interior. Alright guys, so here in the interior, this is moon rock gray with black interior. These are leatherette seats, not full leather, but we got some leather elements like the steering wheel, the armrest, the gear shifter. All in all, it's a good aesthetic. The black and gray suits my personality well. I don't like interiors with a lot of really light colors, so I like staying in the darker tones. And this darker gray here with the black, I think it looks good. You also get some brushed aluminum here on the doors and going up over the console. So you got brushed aluminum on the top and just normal aluminum look on the bottom. You've got a gloss black here in between and gloss black towards the bottom. And of course, gloss black is going to get a lot of fingerprints on it, but that's just something you've got to deal with. But let's start looking at some of the tech in here, starting off with this 8-inch infotainment display. So this is the Discover Media 8-inch touchscreen with smart navigation. It's a nice display. Volkswagen's infotainment system is nice, really simple and easy to understand. You have your radio navigation here. You have media devices here. You have your navigation system. You have app for Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. You have some car stats here, a main menu here. Everything's very responsive and easy to use. Again, a really simple design here. Of course, I'm pretty used to it because it's really close to the same design of the infotainment that I have in my vehicle, even though it's a smaller display. You do get an 8-speaker audio system here. The SEL Premium comes with a Harman Kardon system, which is really good, but this just has the basic 8-speaker system. Still sounds really good. Like I showed you, you have Apple CarPlay, and this is wireless Apple CarPlay, so this is playing from my phone here that is not plugged in. You don't get a wireless charger, at least not on this trim, even though there is a little shelf here that could be used for a wireless charger. Maybe on the top trims it has it. I'm not completely sure there. But as we're moving down here, you can see your AC controls. We have heated seats here, which we don't really need right now. No cooled seat option. It is a dual climate control in this vehicle, and everything's touch sensitive. You can scroll back and forth or just touch. Moving back further is your gear shifter, traditional gear shifter, no electronic gear shifter. You have a manual shift mode over to the side, no paddles on the steering wheel. You can see a lot of cutouts for different options that we don't have here, but we do have a mode select, which will look a little bit more as we drive it, a push button start stop, and it does have the auto shut off feature, which you can turn off, which I usually drive with that turned off. Down further is the electronic parking brake, then your cup holders and an accessory plug here. Opening up the console, it's got a good amount of space down here, and this is where you interface with the infotainment system. You have 2 USB Type-C ports. There are no USB Type-A ports at all. It's only USB Type-C here, which isn't a problem for me, but could be a problem for some. Moving over to the door panels, you get the traditional just windows. You can lock the windows, you can adjust the side mirrors powered. You have your switch for your lights here, an auto setting, which is nice. And then we have the steering wheel here. Like I said, it's a leather wrap steering wheel. It feels good in the hands. It's pretty thick, but not super thick. You've got a lot of controls here. Controls for your cruise control and your safety settings, and then controls for your audio system and your driver information display, which we'll look at right now. So this car does have Volkswagen's digital cockpit. You can choose from various views to highlight different information, including full screen navigation, all on this high resolution 8-inch display. And again, I'll show you some of those. You can toggle through the different view modes. Here you can see a little bit of different information. You can have more traditional looking gauges here, or again, go back to that full screen, and this is showing that navigation, which is really cool. You can also use the buttons to kind of give you a little bit of a zoom in, zoom out feature. Of course, we got things like the Apple CarPlay, your vehicle status, driving data, your assist systems, and you can see here it does have side assist, rear traffic alert, and front assist. And then back to our navigation. We also do have a rear view camera, so as you put it in reverse, you will see that rear view camera, not a 360 camera, but you do have your guidelines as you're turning the steering wheel. And I think the interior looks really good for the price point that this is at, for where it sits in the segment and the market. It's nothing spectacular in here. It's not going to blow you away. The digital cockpit is probably the coolest part of the interior. Having wireless Apple CarPlay is definitely a plus. I would love to see some of the upper trims, jump in them and see what the difference is with the interior, but I didn't have that available at this moment. But with that, I think it's time to get this thing out on the road. We'll take it for a drive, talk about how it feels driving. So let's continue this review. All right guys, so let's get this thing out on the road. So first thing you might notice is it is a very smooth and nice drive. This comes down a lot to the four-wheel independent suspension and the overall chassis design. It really does feel like a much more premium vehicle than it is. Your fuel economy in this vehicle is 22 miles per gallon city, 32 miles per gallon highway. Our average has been 19.4 miles to the gallon for the full week that I've had the vehicle. That's a little deceiving, as we're doing a lot of like pushing the vehicle harder. We're also letting it idle as I take pictures and video and stuff of the car, so I can definitely see it doing a lot better than 19.6, but we definitely aren't hitting really anywhere close to the EPA numbers. The exhaust in this is very muted, which is probably a good thing. Doesn't need to sound super sporty. Probably the R lines sound a lot more sporty than this, but I'm okay with the muted exhaust out of this. It still has decent acceleration. We'll try to do a quick acceleration test here in just a second. But that 268 horsepower, it can get you up and going pretty quickly when you need it to. Again, there's no paddle shifts on the steering wheel, but you can push it over and do manual shift mode. It is back for downshift and up for an upshift, which is a good sequence there. Everything in the cabin is easily accessible, easy to touch, easy to see. I really do love the large digital cockpit. There's definitely a lot to show off there, and you can toggle it through different views to suit your needs. And if you're doing a trip and you've got the navigation and you put this thing in full screen navigation mode, I think that's really cool. So we do have drive modes also. We have an eco mode, a comfort mode, normal mode, and a sport mode. When we do our acceleration test, we'll definitely check out that sport mode. But for the most part, I've tried to keep it in either eco or comfort, and that's great for day-to-day driving. One of the cool things about this Arteon that I didn't quite expect, it is a good looking car, but it gets a lot of looks and a lot of questions. Not a lot of people, I guess, have really seen this vehicle or are very familiar with it. So with the looks and styling that it does have, you get a lot more questions and just looks than you would expect from driving a vehicle at this price point in this segment. And if you're going to own this car, that's always a cool thing to have. Of course, one of the new things here in 2021 is the assist features. You do have some decent assist features. You have side assist, which is basically your blind spot monitoring. You have a rear traffic alert. So as you're backing up, it will let you know if something's coming behind you. And you got a front assist, which is a radar for the front of the vehicle. What you don't have that's kind of a bummer is radar guided cruise control. You do have cruise control, obviously. It doesn't have any real lane keeping assist features with that cruise control, and doesn't have the radar guided cruise control, which is a feature I really like having, and a feature that some other vehicles in this segment definitely do have. All right, so let's take a quick second and do an acceleration test. Let's get it into sport mode here. We'll get up here and make a full stop. We'll do a quick 0 to 60, see how that horsepower feels from the 2-liter turbocharged engine. See how those brakes feel afterwards. All right, so we're at a full stop. And ready, set, go. A little bit slow. Traction control came in. And 60. Not bad, getting up to 60, holds the RPMs good. Hit the brakes, good braking system for sure. That sport mode does open up the acceleration on here, open up that exhaust a little bit. Sounds a little bit better in sport mode than not. But again, it's not made to be a super sporty car, but it looks like a pretty good sporty car. Let's jump off the highway, find a place to park. We'll talk about some of those other vehicles. We'll talk about the actual price of this thing, and then we'll start wrapping this review up. All right, guys, so let's quickly talk about the price of this vehicle, some of the competition out there, and then we'll wrap it up. Starting off with the base MSRP, this thing starts off at $36,995. Like I said, this is the base model. We don't have any other options. We only have the $1,195 destination charge, so that brings our total MSRP to $38,190. So during this review, as I keep saying, for the price range that this thing is in, I do like a lot of the stuff that it has. So a sub $40,000 vehicle, and you can probably get that price knocked down even lower, knowing how Volkswagen does their stuff in their dealerships. I think that's a fantastic price for the type of vehicle that you're getting, for the way that this thing looks, and for the tech that you have in this base model. Again, I'd love to jump into the SEL and the SEL Premium and see how those look on the inside, see how those drive, if they're any different. But of course, those are going to be much more expensive as you go up, and I think this at the base level is a really good buy. Competition wise, you could be looking at the Toyota Avalon, which is a staple in the landscape. Really great vehicle in of itself, a lot of different options, and is looking better and better each year as well. The Kia Cadenza, I think, is a great looking vehicle, has a lot of good tech in it, is a big, nice vehicle. Definitely one to look out for there. I would also throw the K5 and the Hyundai Sonata in there. Those might be a little bit smaller of vehicles, but they kind of compete in the same segment and around the same price range, and definitely I could see people cross-shopping these vehicles. You could also look at the Nissan Maxima, which I think is a nice vehicle as well. And I saw a lot of different people comparing this with the Dodge Charger and Chrysler 300. I don't think those are cross-shopped as often, but for category wise, those do compete. But I would kind of put them off to the side and focus on the other ones if you're really talking about just like cross-shopping. And out of all those, I do like the Hyundai Sonata, the Kia K5 and Cadenza the most. The Toyota Avalon is, again, just a staple and probably super reliable in this segment. I think the Maxima looks really good, has a nice interior these days, but with Nissan sometimes it can be a crapshoot on quality. But let's jump out and I'll give you my final thoughts on this thing and we'll wrap up the review there. So at the end of the week, I really do like the Arteon. I think it's a fantastic car, just like I did the CC back in 2012. I think it looks great, really beautiful design in my opinion. The interior is on par with what you would get for the rest of the segment. It's not spectacular, but for the price point and where it sits, it's not supposed to be spectacular. I wasn't expecting spectacular. It is still the SE trim. I would love to jump in and check out the SEL and the SEL Premium, because I know Volkswagen can do some more premium interiors, and it is the halo car of the brand, so I would like to check those out. But for this one, it's basically exactly what I expected on the inside, but way more than you would expect on the outside if you're just looking at the price in the category. Just walking up to it every day, it feels like a premium vehicle. And for me, that's reminiscent of the feelings that I get when I look at things like the Hyundai Sonata or even the new Kia K5. They look fantastic. Really love the designs on the outside. The interiors are great for the segment, but basically on par for what you're getting these days. And if you know me, you'll know how much of a fanboy I am of the Sonata, so that's pretty high praise for me. But even with this one, that 5-door hatch, I think really sets us apart from a lot of the competition. So if you're looking for a mid-size to large sedan, 5-door hatch at a good price, this is definitely one that I would recommend you check out. With that, I hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, please hit that thumbs up button. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think about the Arteon. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Go check out TXGARAGE.com, where we have a lot of great contributors doing written reviews, news and event coverage, as well as just a lot of other cool things. Also check out our newsletter if you're not. That's sent out every week. It has a wrap-up of everything that's happened on the website and on YouTube for the week, plus some exclusive content, so that's something you should definitely check out. But with that, guys, I've held you long enough. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.